Hello all, myself Dr. Ratish. Today I'm going to talk about the poem Tonight I Can Write the Saddest Lines by Pablo Neruda, a well-known Chilean poet. So before I begin this class, let me give you a brief outline of today's class. Today I intend to begin with an introduction to the writer and the poem. I will then attempt a detailed analysis of the poem, and to end, I'll try to discuss the major themes and symbols used in this poem. So, as I already told you, let me begin today's session by introducing the writer. As you all know, this poem, Tonight I Can Write the Saddest Lines, is written by Pablo Neruda. So, let me introduce the writer Pablo Neruda briefly. Pablo Neruda was born in 1904 and died in 1973 of cancer. Ricardo Eliezer Neftali Reyes Basalto, better known by his pen name Pablo Neruda, was a Chilean poet, diplomat, and a politician. He received the pen name Pablo Neruda out of his respect for the Czech poet Jan Neruda. He is arguably the most widely read Latin American poet of all time, and some critics call him as the national poet of Chile. So, as I have already told you that he worked as a diplomat and he was also a politician. So, he had worked as a diplomat in various countries and served as the senator for Chilean's Communist Party. He was a communist and he was a member of the Chilean Communist Party. Another famous writer, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, once described him as the greatest poet of 20th century in any language. So now let me talk about some of the prestigious awards he won during his lifetime. So in 1950, he won the International Peace Prize. He won the Lenin Peace Prize and the Stalin Peace Prize in the year 1953. But the most important honor and the award he won is Nobel Prize for Literature in 1971. So he began his writing career by publishing an essay entitled Enthusiasm and Perseverance in a local newspaper at the age of 13. And if we analyze his poems, we can understand that most of his poems are focused on themes such as love and politics. Now let me talk about some of the popular works by him. Pablo Neruda was a prolific writer, and I don't think I can mention the titles of all the works by him. So I'm going to mention the titles of a few works by him, which I think I must tell you people. So the first one is Books of Twilights, which was published in 1923, and he published this book under the pen name Pablo Neruda to avoid conflicts with the family, which means his family members were against Neruda becoming a poet. Especially his father did not want Neruda to be a poet. So he had to publish these books using the pen name Pablo Neruda. Now, another one is 20 Love Poems and a Song of Despair, which was published in 1924. This particular book is significant in this context. We shall talk about this book later when we start our discussion on the poem Tonight I Can Write the Saddest Lines. So another one is The Attempt of the Infinite Man, published in 1926. This one, Canto General, is a very popular work by Pablo Neruda, which was published in the year 1950. Then The Resident Cycle is another work by him. So The Heights of Machu Picchu, another well-known work by him. 100 Love Sonnets, and finally Memos. So let me stop here. Now I'll talk about the poem. As you all know, now the poem Tonight You Can Write the Saddest Lines needs to be introduced. So this poem, Tonight I Can Write the Saddest Lines, is taken from a collection of poems entitled 20 Love Poems and a Song of Despair, which was published in 1924. And the poems in these collections were written originally in Spanish, and later in 1967 a very famous American poet W.S. Merwin translated these poems into English. So this is a love poem which he wrote at the age of 20, and this is a poem which deals with the memories of a lost love and the pain it causes, and it is a monologue written in confessional mode. And in this poem, the poet laments over the loss of a lover. And this very poem is well known or noted for the use of innovative, simple, and direct language, and also noted for its use of scattered imagery. So now let's listen to the poem read by Tom O. Bethlehem.
Tonight I Can Write the Saddest Lines, by Pablo Neruda, translated by W.S. Merwin. Tonight I can write the saddest lines. Write, for example, the night is starry and the stars are blue and shiver in the distance. The night wind revolves in the sky and sings. Tonight I can write the saddest lines. I loved her, and sometimes she loved me too. Through nights like this one I held her in my arms. I kissed her again and again under the endless sky. She loved me. Sometimes I loved her too. How could one not have loved her great still eyes? Tonight I can write the saddest lines. To think that I do not have her. To feel that I have lost her. To hear the immense night still more immense without her. And the verse falls to the soul like dew to the pasture. What does it matter that my love could not keep her? The night is starry and she is not with me. this is all. In the distance, someone is singing. In the distance, my soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. My sight tries to find her as though to bring her closer. My heart looks for her, and she is not with me. The same night, whitening the same trees. We of that time are no longer the same. I no longer love her, that's certain, but how I loved her. My voice tries to find the wind, to touch her hearing. And others, she will be in others, as she was before my kisses. Her voice, her bright body, her infinite eyes. I no longer love her, that's certain, but maybe I love her. Love is so short, forgetting is so long. Because through nights like this one, I held her in my arms. My soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. Though this be the last pain that she makes me suffer, and these the last verses that I write for her.
So that's it. Uh, Now let me attempt a detailed analysis of the poem. I begin the analysis with the first four lines. Tonight I can write the saddest lines. Write, for example, the night is shattered and the blue stars shiver in the distance. The night wind revolves in the sky and sings. It must be read as wind, it is not winds. Okay, so let's begin. Take for example the first line. Tonight I can write the saddest lines, which means finally the poet or the speaker in the poem has decided to write something about his former lover or his lost love. So which means he has been trying to write. So when someone says that I think I can write something today, which also tells us that yeah, that person has been trying to write something. But in the case of the poet in the poem, he has not been able to write anything previously. The speaker in this poem has not been able to write anything in the past or previously due to the sorrow over the lost lover. Due to the sorrow over the lost lover means the poet's lover is not with him now, so he felt sad, and due to that sorrow over the lost love, or the lost lover, he has not been able to write anything. But today he has decided to write something, and by writing he wants to forget her, he wants to move on. So here when we analyze these lines, what we can understand is uh, it was the overwhelming sorrow of the poet that prevented him from writing about their relationship. The same also prevented him from explaining or describing how their relationship ended. And so tonight I can write the saddest lines, right, for example. Then he thinks about various things in the nature, for example, the night, the stars, and the wind. So the very thought about the night, the stars, and the wind remind him of his lover. So we can say when he looks around, he sees night and the stars in a distant sky, and he feels the wind. So these things really bring the memories of his lover into his mind. So when he thinks of these things, the night, the stars, and the wind, all these remind him of his beloved. and that he thinks, that he contemplates on those aspects of nature which remind him of his lover. So here the poet contemplates on those aspects of nature that help him to remember his lover, or that brings the memories of his lover into his mind. If you look at these lines closely, what we can understand is that the night and the darkness, right? It is night time and the poet is alone. No one is there to give him company. So the night and the darkness in the poem represent his mood. His mood is not happy. His mood is not something positive. He's going through a tough time because his lover has left him. So as I already told you people, he has decided to write a poem in this night. So that very decision of the poet to write a poem in this dark night describes his gloomy mood, describes his serious attitude, describes his sadness in a way. And this very night enables him to write about his lover. Finally, in this very night, after a lot of days, finally he has decided to write about his lover. And before we move on further, I like to bring something into your attention, that is, throughout this poem, the poet uses nature imagery extensively. So the very extensive use of nature imagery in this poem act as a link between the poet's memories and his present state. So these things act as links between his memories and his present state of mind. So if you look at the second line, the night is shattered and the blue stars shiver in the distance, which means, so the shattered night and the shivering stars, the shattered nights and the shivering stars here indicate the turmoil that the poet experiences at present in his life, the turmoil, emotional pangs, the pain that he suffers due to the departure of his lover. So the shattered night and the shivering stars represent or maybe stand for the turmoil that the poet experiences in his life. And if you look at the third line, the blue stars shiver in the distance. So the stars are far away from him. The stars are there in the distant sky. So the distant stars reinforces the fact that he is alone. So when the poet writes that stars are there in the distant sky, it tells us that the poet is all alone there. So it also indicates the loneliness of the speaker here in this poem. And let's take those two usages again, shattered night and also shivering stars. So those are perfect examples for the use of poetic device called personification. So we know that it is not the night that is shattered, but it is the poet who is shattered. Similarly, it is not the stars that are shivering, but the poet himself. So it's an example for personification. And now if we take the last line, the fourth line there, the night wind revolves in the sky and sings. And in that night, he is also able to feel the wind. And when he looks around, he sees the night wind revolving in the sky. So The night wind revolves in the sky, and the poet thinks that the night wind is also singing a song. Also singing a song in the sense, the poet is now ready to write a poem, in a way a song, and to forget the memories of his lover, and thus to console himself. In the similar passion, when he looks around, he thinks that the wind is also singing a song like the poet. You know, the wind is also singing a song like how the poet is attempting to write a poem, about his lost love. And both are probably going to sing a sad song. It cannot be a happy song, because poet is not in a happy mood now. He is lamenting, or maybe he 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 is experiencing painful things in his life. At this moment, whatever he writes won't appear, won't be having a happy note, a happy tone. So it is probably going to be a sad song. Okay, now let's move on to the discussion of the next 5 lines. Tonight I can write the saddest lines. I left her, and sometimes she left me too. Through nights like this one, I held her in my arms. I kissed her again and again under the endless sky. How could one not have loved her great still eyes? So the 5th line of this poem is the repetition of the first line. So here the poet has employed a technique called repetition. By repeating the first line again, the poet here intends to communicate, intends to express the emotional turmoil of the poet. He wants to communicate the emotional, the painful experience, or maybe the emotional turmoil of the poet. And in other words, when we look at it, what we can understand is that by repeating these lines, the poet is also trying to convince himself that he can write about his love, and thereby feel free. So it means he is trying to convince himself, he is trying to tell himself that he can write about it, and by writing about it he can get over with that, or he can move on, he can feel free. But if you look at that line, tonight I can write the saddest lines. The lines are saddest, not happy ones. So which means the poet, though he tries hard to write about his lost love, and thus to feel free, when we look at the last part of the 5th line, the saddest line, what we can assume is that the poet cannot escape the pain of remembering his lost lover, or his lost love. So I loved her, and sometimes she loved me too. Through nights like this one, I held her in my arms. So the poet here says he loved her, he loved his lover, and sometimes she returned the love. So it is only sometimes, not always. So that tells us the fact that their love was not genuine and sincere. He loved her, and sometimes she loved him back. So from that, what we can understand is that their love was not genuine and sincere. She did not have love for him always. So but at the same time, he confesses that their love, when they were in love, when they were in love, he derived maximum pleasure out of it, or his her love gave him maximum pleasure. And maybe this may be the possible reason for the demise of their love too, right? The lack of genuine sincere love between or between them could be the possible reason for the demise of, for the death of their love. So through nights like this one, I held her in my arms, I kissed her again and again under the endless sky. So now he thinks about a night in which he held her in his arms in the past, a night that they spent together while they were in love, so his memory takes him to a night like this. That night also was like this. So that reminds him of a night in which he held her in his arms, and in that night he kissed her under the endless sky. So through nights like this one, he remembers a night which both of them spent together, and in which he held her in her arms, and in that night he kissed her again and again under the endless sky. So this shows the emotional intensity of their love. And when they were together, not now, in the past, when they were together, when they were still lovers, both of them, both the poet and his lover, felt that everything is endless. People sometimes feel that, people in love feel that they feel that everything is going to remain same. So when they were in love, they felt that everything is endless, everything will remain forever. That is, it is endless sky. So they thought that everything is going to be going to remain like this. Everything will remain forever. So they really thought so when they were in love. And see here in these lines, not only in these lines but throughout the poem, he employs a technique called juxtaposition. So here he is juxtaposing nights from the past with this night. So that very juxtaposition of nights from the past with this night reveals the change that has happened or that has taken place in his life. So this juxtaposition also indicates the loneliness of the poet, because it tells us that the poet is now unable to come to terms with his present isolated state. At present, the poet is alone. His lover has left him, but he always brings memories from the past and compares it with his present state of mind. So what we can understand from this is that is not able to come to terms with, or he is not able to adjust with his present isolated state, or come to terms with his present isolated state. So here also you see that the poet links the lover with the nature, and so this indicates the sensuous nature of their love, right? Always the poet kind of links the lover with the nature, so that indicates the sensuous nature of their love. I kissed her again and again under the endless sky. How could one not have loved her great still eyes? So, in the past, not now, he was greatly or he was deeply in love with her in the past. And her great still eyes. He believes, he had great admiration for her great still eyes, and he believes that her great still eyes would make anyone fall in love with her. So he thought or believes that her great still eyes, beautiful eyes, would make anyone fall in love with her. And in his case, he could not help himself but love her. So due to that due to her great still eyes, he could not help himself but love her due to her great still eyes. And let me tell you something. So in this poem, we see the poet employing another technique called contradiction, where he presents an argument and next moment he corrects himself, or he presents a contradicting argument, an opposing argument there. So that indicates, that tells us that how desperate the poet is to forget his lover. He says that I no longer love her. Then he corrects himself. He presents an opposite, maybe a contradicting argument. So that very technique of contradiction, indicates his desperate attempt to forget his lover. So let's take the next four lines for discussion. Tonight I can write the saddest lines, to think that I do not love her, to feel that I have lost her, to hear the immense night still more immense without her, and verse falls to the soul like dew to the pasture. So again, that line is getting repeated. Tonight I can write the saddest line. So I've already explained why the poet employs the technique of repetition there. So the line getting repeated here indicates the struggle of the poet to come out of his emotional turmoil. And but at the same time, it becomes clear for us, for the readers, that however hard the poet tries, he cannot escape the pain of remembering. He cannot avoid the pain of remembering. He is recollecting memories from his happy life, so he is not able to escape, forget that pain, or feel okay with that. Okay, so, and the very thought that he has lost her increases his sorrow. To think that I do not love her, to feel that I have lost her. So the very thought that he has lost her increases his sorrow. So for him, it becomes, it seems, in the case of the poet, it seems it is unbearable for him to think that he has lost her. So the very notion, the very thought that the lover is not with him increases his sorrow, and he takes it as an unbearable thing. So to hear the immense night still more immense without her, and the verse falls to the soul like dew to the pasture. Here the night looks alone. See, immense night, to hear the immense night. The night is already alone. The poet is already alone. The poet is not in the company of anyone. There is no one to give him a company. So the night looks alone. The night appear alone, but the absence of his lover make the night more lonely. So though the night is already alone, the very absence of his lover make the night more lonely and more immense. It increases the intensity of the immense night. And now he feels that without her The night seems immensely lonely. Without her, the night seems immensely lonely. To hear the immense night, still more immense without her, in her absence, he feels that the night is more lonely, immensely lonely. He is not able to bear the loneliness in the absence of his, loneliness of the night in the absence of his lover. And the verse here means the poem. The verse falls to the soul like dew to the pasture, which means the he thinks that the poem he writes would help him to feel better, and the poem that he is attempting to write would replenish his soul like dew to the pasture, would help him feel better, would provide him a comfortable time. So this is what he believes, that the poem that he is going to write would help him to feel better, and in a way would replenish his soul like dew to the pasture. So it is very clear that the poet has employed the poetic device called simile there. Look at there, a comparison has been made, the soul like dew to the pasture. So let's move on to the discussion of next four lines. Why does it matter that my love could not keep her? The night is shattered and she is not with me. This is all. In the distance, someone is singing. In the distance, my soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. So, why does it matter that my love could not keep her? In spite of everything, he could not keep her. You know, he did a lot of things, but still his lover left him. And so, without her, in the absence of his lover, makes him feel that his soul is lost. So without her, he thinks that his soul is lost forever. What does it matter that my love could not keep her? He could not keep her. He could not keep her with him. She left him. So in spite of everything, he could not keep her. And so the very absence of his lover makes him feels that his soul is lost forever. And the night is shattered. She is not with me. So again, he feels shattered in the night, as he is not in the company of his lover. So he feels shattered, he feels destroyed in the night, as she is not with him, as his lover is not with him. So again, it is an example for personification. We know that it is not the night that is shattered, but the poet who is shattered due to the departure of his own lover. So this is all. In the distance, someone is singing in the distance. So in the distance, not near, right? The word distance has been used twice there. So in order to stress, in order to give focus to his loneliness, so it is not near, right? In the distance, in a far away place, in the distance, he hears someone singing. He hears a song. He hears someone singing from a faraway place. So in the distance, he hears someone singing. So that also indicates that he is alone, his loneliness, and there is no one to sing for him. No one is singing for him, no one is singing to him, and that's why his soul is not satisfied, and the soul is not happy, and the soul cannot be happy because there is no one to sing for him. The song that he listens to, that he hears, is coming from a faraway place. So no one is there to console him, to be with him, to give him company. So personification. Now let's take the next two lines for analysis. My sight searches for her as though to go to her. my hair looks for her and she is not with me. So through these two lines, the poet expresses his desire to reunite with his lover. So see, his both his sight as well as his look search for her um, to reunite with his lover. So and it is not here actually, my heart, sorry, it is my heart. So his sight as well as his heart look for her to reunite with her, but soon he realizes the fact that she is not with him anymore. See, my sight searches for him, searches for her as though to go to her. My heart looks for her and she is not with me. So though he wants to you reunite with his lover, he soon realizes the fact that she is not with him anymore. Okay, now let's take the next four lines for analysis. The same night, whitening the same trees, we of that time are no longer the same. I no longer love her, that is certain, but how I left her. My voice tried to find the wind to touch her hearing. So, the same night, whitening the same trees. He says, he says that this night is so similar to the night they spent together when they were together, when the lover was still with him. So the night reminds him of a night that they had spent together in the past while they were still in love. So but soon he realizes that they are no longer the same. Maybe in the past they did that, but they are no longer the same because they are not together anymore. The lover has left him. Maybe she is with someone else, who knows. So things are not same anymore. Things have changed. So kind of they are no longer same, and we of that time are no longer the same. I no longer love her, that is certain, but how I loved her. So he says that it's kind of he is trying to convince himself that he no longer loves her, but he loved her greatly once. So though he no longer loves her, he loved her once, and it could also be understood as an attempt from the part of the poet to convince himself and also to relieve his pain, to convince himself that he doesn't love her anymore, so he must feel okay, and also to get rid of the pain that he experiences inside. So my voice tried to find the wind to touch her hearing. So he says that. So again he links the poet here links their relationship to nature or with nature, and the poet here tries to send the wind to touch her hearing. Again, it also indicates how desperate he is to reunite with his lover. Okay, let's take the last lines of the poem and analyze it. So another's, she will be another's, like my kisses before, her void, her bright body, her infinite eyes. I no longer love her, that's certain, but maybe I love her. Love is so short, forgetting is so long, because through nights like this one, I held her in my arms. My soul is not satisfied that it has lost her, though this may be the last pain that she makes me suffer, and these the last verses that I write for her. So now he realizes the fact that she is no longer with him, and another's maybe she is with another person now, right? She will be another's now, and he remembers her bright body, right? Like my kisses before, her void, her bright body. He remembers everything about her physique, everything about her bright body, and he also thinks that he also remembers that that bright body will be touched by her new lover now, and like he kissed her before, someone else would kiss her like he did in the past. And her infinite eyes, when they were in love, her she used to look at him with her infinite eyes. So now, using her infinite eyes, she would look at her new lover. So everything has changed, things are not same anymore, and I no longer love her, that's certain, but maybe I love her. So but again, he is trying to convince himself that he no longer loves her, but the next moment he contradicts himself. He presents a different argument there, and he says that he may be maybe he's still in love with her, you know. He may be in love with her still, or that he maybe he is still loving her. So he in a way contradicts his own arguments, and this could also be understood as an attempt from his part to convince him that convince himself that he doesn't love her anymore, but he fails miserably. So though he says that I no longer love her, see the last part of that line, maybe I love her. So he fails miserably in his attempt, in his desperate attempt to forget and come over, or maybe feel free, but he fails miserably. And throughout this poem, the speaker has been trying to forget his lost lover. So the poem in that sense could be described as a painful effort in forgetting, a painful effort in forgetting. And love is so short, forgetting is so long. So here the poet acknowledges the fact that love is short and forgetting is long. Maybe when he was in love with her, when they were together, he did not realize the intensity of his love. He did not think that her departure would disturb him like this. Okay, so because through nights like this one, I held her in my arms, my soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. So this night, as he has been trying to tell us, evokes the memory of his lover. This night evokes the memory of, or brings the memory of his lover, uh, or maybe reminds him of a night in which he held, his lover in his arms. And because through nights like this one, I held her in my arms in the past. In a night like this, he held her in his arms, and my soul is not satisfied that it has lost her. So he says that, and now he is not able to forget those nights. So the very loss of her, the very absence of her, leaves his soul unsatisfied and disturbed. So he is not able to feel, he is not satisfied, he is not happy because of the absence of his lover. So the loss of her leaves his soul unsatisfied and disturbed. Though this may be the last pain that she makes me suffer, and these the last verses that I write for her. The poet here concludes the poem saying that the poem is the last pain that she can give to him. So the poem could be the last pain that she can make him suffer. So this is the last attempt. This should be the last time that he faces the pain due to her. So and here if you read these two lines, you feel the determination of the poet. that the poet is determined to erase the pain through this poem, right? May suffer, and these the last verses that I write for her was here, the poem, though this even stands for poem. So he hopes that this poem would be his last poem for her. So he really wishes that this poem would be the last poem that he writes for her, and through this poem he wants to erase the pain, the memories of his lost love. So here ends the poem. I hope I have covered all the aspects. So before I conclude, let me talk about some of the themes of this poem, maybe some of the prominent themes discussed in this poem. So I have identified mainly three themes. They are memory and reminiscence, second one is love and passion, and the third one is alienation and loneliness. See, let's take the first one, that is memory and reminiscence. For a detail, not very detailed analysis, I'll try to say a few things about this poem. You know, okay. So memory and reminiscence. So this poem is, in the very beginning itself, I told you that this poem is about the memories of lost love and the pain it can cause. So memory plays a very important role in this poem. Throughout the poem, the poet recollects incidents and experiences his past life. Memory is, and also the reminiscence is a major theme in this poem, because throughout the poem the poet recalls the details of their relationship, or maybe the details of his relationship with the lover. So the poem consists of many such things. And let's take the second theme, that is love and passion. So in the poem, the poet expresses his great love for a woman with whom he had a passionate affair, or he had spent a wonderful time. So the memories about his lost love are painful, and he tries to write about it, and thus thereby overcome that the pain. But however hard he tries, he has not been successful in his attempt. But in this poem, he in a way succeeds in writing about his lost love, and he tries to convince himself that this should be the last poem that he writes for her. Then the final one is alienation and loneliness. Alienation and loneliness, this I think is a prominent theme in the poem, because if you read the poem carefully, there are words, usages, images used in the poem which tell us the importance of loneliness. See, take for example the song that he hears, and that song is coming from a faraway place, and there is no one to sing for him. So that itself indicates the loneliness, the alienation that the poet suffers. The song is coming from a faraway place, and there is no one to help him out, there is no one to sing for him. And he in many places uses the nature imagery to reflect, maybe to represent his internal state. And finally, I'll talk about the images, or maybe the imagery of this poem. And so this poem uses nature imagery extensively to describe his lost love and their relationship, and these are used in the poem to portray the state of mind of the poet. So uh, uh, let me wind up this this class. I hope I have covered all the relevant aspects of this poem, and let me thank you all for listening to me. Thank you.